Alex woke to a soft glow filling the room. The alien architecture seemed to breathe around him, walls shifting subtly as if alive. The bed molded itself to his body during the night, offering a comfort he hadn't expected. But comfort did not ease the fear clenching his chest. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. "Marry me, or face execution." He rose and looked out of the translucent wall. Beyond it, the alien city stretched as far as he could see. Towers of shimmering metal and crystal reflected energy in every color imaginable. Vehicles moved in perfect synchronization, floating through the air like schools of fish. Everywhere he looked, technology and life intertwined seamlessly. It was beautiful, but it was also terrifying. He was a human, alone in a world where he had no rights, no allies, and no plan. Yet hiding from fear had never been his way. He had always faced impossible odds and survived. A soft chime echoed through the room. Alex tensed. A door opened, and a female alien entered. She was not the Queen, but her presence carried authority. Her skin was a pale silver and her eyes glowed faintly blue. She bowed slightly. "You are awake, human," she said. Her voice was calm, soothing. "I am Lysa, aide to Queen Zalith. She has ordered me to oversee your stay and to ensure you understand the expectations." Alex straightened. "Expectations?" he asked cautiously. Lysa inclined her head. "Yes. The Queen has chosen you for reasons you do not yet understand. You are clever, observant, and adaptable. She believes you may offer qualities our people lack." Alex frowned. "I don't understand. You mean me? A human? What could I possibly offer to a civilization this advanced?" Lysa smiled faintly. "That is for the Queen to determine. For now you must learn. You will remain here, observe, and comply with her instructions. Resistance will not serve you." Alex nodded, though every nerve in his body screamed to resist. He realized quickly that resistance here meant death, and death came swiftly in this empire. Still, he could not let fear dominate him. Survival depended on observation, understanding, and adaptability. Lysa left, but the words lingered. Observe and comply. It was not submission, Alex reminded himself. It was strategy. He had always survived by thinking ahead, by using every advantage his mind could provide. The next hours were filled with introductions and guided tours. Guards, servants, and officials moved around him, speaking in alien language, though Lysa translated. Every interaction was a study. He noted hierarchy, the flow of information, even the subtle shifts in body language and eye color that indicated mood. By mid-afternoon, he was escorted to the Queen's throne room. She awaited him, standing this time rather than sitting. Her presence was commanding, yet there was a trace of curiosity in her eyes. "You have slept," she observed. "Good. You will need strength in the coming days." Alex nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty." She stepped closer. "You are brave, human. Many of your kind would have panicked and begged. You have faced fear without collapsing." Alex swallowed. I am not sure what else I can do except try to survive." The Queen regarded him silently, then spoke. "Survival alone is not enough. To live here you must understand us, you must learn what our people value, what they fear, and what they desire. Only then will you be useful." Alex nodded. "I will try. I promise." The Queen turned, gesturing for him to follow. They walked through corridors that shimmered with light. Alex's mind raced as he observed the architecture, the living, walls, the energy fields that seemed to respond to movement. Everything was alive, and everything seemed connected. They arrived at a large chamber where several officials awaited. The Queen introduced him as a human envoy, though Alex knew the title was symbolic at best. The officials watched him with guarded curiosity, some skeptical, others openly hostile. "You will work with us," the Queen said. "Learn our technologies, our strategies, and our ways. Your human perspective may offer solutions we have overlooked." Alex nodded, aware of the subtle power dynamics. He understood he had to navigate carefully. Every word, every gesture mattered. A wrong move could end his life. Days passed. Alex learned quickly. He observed how the aliens communicated silently with gestures and subtle shifts in skin color. He studied their technology, noting patterns that seemed chaotic but were actually elegant and precise. He realized that while they were advanced, they had weaknesses. Their systems were complex and rigid. Creativity and improvisation were not valued in the same way they were for humans. Alex began to see opportunities, ways his human intuition and experience could complement their strengths. He also learned more about the Queen. She was powerful, intelligent, and feared by her people, yet Alex detected a loneliness she tried to conceal. She did not trust easily, and she had little patience for failure or weakness. Yet she had chosen him, a human, to be close to her. That choice, though terrifying, was an opportunity. Alex began testing boundaries subtly. He asked questions about their customs, their history, and their culture. He observed the Queen's reactions carefully, noting what intrigued her, what annoyed her, and what amused her. Slowly, a connection began to form, not of friendship, but of mutual respect. One evening, the Queen summoned him to her private chambers. Alex entered, cautious but composed. The room was less formal than the throne room, yet still magnificent. Light flowed through crystal walls, casting patterns across the floor. "You have learned quickly," she said, observing him. "You have adapted. I am impressed." Alex nodded. "I try. I want to survive, and I want to understand. I have no choice but to learn." The Queen smiled faintly. "Do you think survival is all you are capable of, human?" Alex hesitated. I suppose I never thought beyond survival, but I am willing to try if that is what you mean." She stepped closer. "You are clever. Humans have an unpredictability that intrigues me. You see solutions where others see impossibility. You do not accept limits blindly. That is why I chose you." Alex felt a mix of fear and awe. He had survived countless dangers on Earth and in space, but nothing had prepared him for this. The scrutiny of a being who could end his life with a thought, yet had chosen to observe him instead. Over the following days, Alex was assigned small tasks. He helped adjust energy flows in the palace, optimized minor systems, and suggested minor improvements in security protocols. Each success brought cautious approval from the Queen. Each failure, though minor, reminded him of the stakes. Through observation, he realized the Queen valued innovation, courage, and honesty. Flattery or deception would not impress her. Only genuine skill and insight mattered. Alex had learned to speak with care, act with precision, and think ahead. He also discovered that the Queen's empire faced internal tensions, factions among her advisors, differing opinions among officials, and occasional whispers of rebellion made her position precarious. Alex's human perspective, though naive in many ways, offered new angles. He suggested minor adjustments that eased tensions and prevented conflicts. Slowly, he became more than a captive. He became a participant, a small but noticeable presence in the workings of the empire. One evening, as he studied energy matrices in a chamber, the Queen appeared silently behind him. "You work well," she said. "Better than I expected." Alex straightened, feeling a surge of pride tempered by fear. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am trying to understand." She circled him, observing silently. "Understanding is not enough. You must also adapt, influence, and survive with courage. Do you think you can do that?" Alex met her gaze. "I have no choice. But yes, I will try." The Queen's golden eyes softened slightly. "Good. You have more potential than most humans. That is why I chose you. That is why you will face my challenge. Not everyone can endure it." Alex swallowed hard. He realized that marriage or execution was more than a personal demand. It was a test. Survival required more than compliance. It required intelligence, courage, and adaptability. He had survived countless dangers in space, but this was different. Here the rules were alien, and failure was permanent. Yet as fear tightened in his chest, he felt determination grow. He had survived impossible odds before, and he would do so again. Humans were resilient, resourceful, and unpredictable. If he could understand the Queen, her people, and their world, he could turn this situation to his advantage. Alex Carter, a simple human explorer, was learning the most important lesson of his life. Survival in a galaxy full of alien power required more than strength or skill. It required understanding, courage, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. As he prepared for sleep that night, he realized he was no longer just a captive. He was a student, an observer, and, in a small but significant way, a player in the intricate game of an empire he barely understood. The Queen's shocking demand had not only endangered his life, it had opened a path for him to show what a human could endure, accomplish, and influence. The galaxy watched, unknowingly, as one human began to leave his mark in a world far beyond. Earth and one alien queen began to see the possibilities of a species she had never truly known. Alex had been in the alien empire for several weeks now. Each day brought new lessons, new observations, and new challenges. The palace was a labyrinth of living corridors and shifting chambers, each more astonishing than the last. Everywhere he went, technology and life intertwined in ways he had never imagined. And everywhere he went, he was reminded of the Queen's ultimatum: marry me or face execution. But fear alone was not enough to control him. Alex's mind was sharp, trained by years of exploring dangerous worlds and surviving against the odds. He began to see patterns, weaknesses, and opportunities in the alien systems. The empire was vast, powerful, and seemingly perfect, but no civilization was without flaws. He discovered that the Queen's advisors, though brilliant, were constrained by rigid rules and traditions. Their thinking was linear, and innovation often met resistance. Human creativity, he realized, could exploit these gaps. A simple suggestion, a subtle improvement, could earn him favor, and more importantly, could give him leverage. One morning, he was called to the Queen's chambers. She stood near a glowing map of the empire, her golden eyes scanning constellations and strategic points. "You have been attentive," she said, without turning. "Tell me, human, what do you see?" Alex studied the map carefully. Energy flows, transport routes, and defensive outposts were indicated by shifting lights. He noticed a pattern that the alien advisors seemed to have overlooked. "Your Majesty," he began cautiously, "there are areas where your supply routes overlap with vulnerable zones. If an enemy were to target those, it could cause serious disruption. I think adjusting the flow and adding redundancies could protect the system." The Queen turned, her expression unreadable. "You see weaknesses others do not," she said. "Interesting. And what would you do if faced with an attack?" Alex hesitated. This was no longer theoretical. "I would prioritize critical nodes, redirect resources, and coordinate defensive systems to respond quickly. And I would anticipate enemy strategies rather than wait to react." The Queen studied him silently. Then, slowly, she nodded. "You are bold, human. Most of your kind would shrink before such complexity. You think ahead, you adapt, and you survive. That is why I chose you." Alex felt a mix of pride and fear. Every word from her was a reminder of his precarious position. Yet he also realized that the Queen's fascination with him could be a tool. He had to be careful, precise, and intelligent. He had to prove that humans could bring value even to a civilization far older and more advanced than his own. Over the following days, Alex was allowed to access restricted areas of the palace. He saw laboratories where energy flowed and controlled, streams powering the city and its fleets. He observed strategic planning chambers where the Queen's advisors debated endlessly, sometimes overlooking simple solutions because of tradition. Alex began to contribute quietly, offering minor insights and improvements. His suggestions were often small: an adjustment to energy flow, a new method to manage logistics, but they worked. Slowly, the Queen's advisors began to notice. Some were skeptical, others hostile, but all were intrigued by the human who dared to suggest changes in a civilization that had endured for millennia. One evening, Alex was called to a chamber deep within the palace. It was a place he had never seen before, filled with devices he could not comprehend at first glance. Energy pulsed through conduits, forming patterns in the air that seemed almost alive. The Queen entered silently, her presence commanding as, always. "You have done well," she said. "But there is more to observe than systems and structures. You must understand my people, their fears, their desires. Only then will you survive and influence them." Alex nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will learn." She circled him slowly. "You are clever, but cleverness alone is not enough. Humans are unpredictable, and that can be dangerous. I want to see how far you can go. I want to see if your courage matches your intelligence." Alex's stomach tightened. He had survived hostile planets, deadly creatures, and malfunctioning technology. But this was different. This was a test not of physical strength, but of wit, adaptability, and moral courage. The next days were filled with observation missions. Alex was allowed to move through the city in a limited capacity, interacting with various officials, engineers, and citizens. He saw the intricacies of the alien society, their dedication to structure, the precision of their technology, and the subtle hierarchies that governed every action. He also began to see tension beneath the surface. Certain factions within the palace were dissatisfied with the Queen's rule. They whispered of rebellion, questioned her decisions, and eyed Alex with suspicion. They did not understand his purpose or his value. Some saw him as a threat, a human whose mere presence challenged their authority. Alex realized that understanding these dynamics was as important as understanding technology. He had to navigate politics as carefully as he had navigated asteroid fields. One misstep, one poorly chosen word, could cost him his life. During one observation session, Alex overheard a heated debate among advisors about resource allocation. The Queen's strategies were questioned, and some suggested aggressive expansion into neighboring territories. Alex noticed flaws in their reasoning, assumptions that relied on rigid patterns, ignoring potential variables. He waited until the discussion ended and then offered a suggestion, speaking carefully. "If you consider the unpredictability of neighboring factions and adjust your supply lines for flexibility, you may avoid conflict without direct confrontation. This could prevent unnecessary loss of life and resources." The advisors looked at him skeptically. One even scoffed, but the Queen's eyes gleamed with interest. "Explain," she commanded. Alex detailed his reasoning, step by step. He avoided arrogance, focusing instead on logic and practicality. By the end, the Queen's approval was clear. She nodded, pleased. Some advisors began to murmur approval. Others remained silent, wary of the human who dared to challenge convention. Alex's confidence grew, but he remained cautious. He understood that his survival depended on more than cleverness. It required timing, observation, and knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Late one night, the Queen summoned him privately. They walked through a corridor bathed in soft golden light. Alex noted how the living walls shifted subtly around them, as if observing their conversation. "You are becoming useful," she said. "But usefulness is not enough. I need to know your limits. Can you make decisions when all options carry risk? Can you act when the outcome is uncertain?" Alex met her gaze. I think I can, Your Majesty. I have survived impossible odds before, and I can do it again. I will do whatever it takes to understand and adapt." She studied him for a long moment. "Good. You must learn that power is not only in strength or technology, but in influence, foresight, and courage. Humans can be unpredictable. That unpredictability is both dangerous and valuable." Alex realized the Queen was testing him, Not only his skills, but his understanding of human qualities in an alien context. She wanted to see if he could influence events subtly, navigate politics, and act decisively under pressure. The following week, a crisis arose. A malfunction in one of the energy conduits threatened a portion of the city. If not corrected quickly, it could have caused widespread disruption. Alex was called to assist. He assessed the situation quickly. While the alien engineers followed standard protocols, Alex noticed a simpler, faster solution. He instructed them to reroute the energy temporarily, stabilizing the system. Then he adjusted the main conduits using a method the aliens had not considered. Within moments, the crisis was averted. The Queen observed from a distance, her expression unreadable. When the repairs were complete, she approached Alex. "You acted decisively. You used creativity and judgment where others relied on routine. That is, human ingenuity. You are proving your value." Alex felt a surge of pride tempered by fear. Each success brought him closer to survival, but the Queen's initial demand, marriage or death, remained a shadow over him. He could not forget it, and he could not ignore it. Over the following days, Alex continued to navigate palace life, contributing insights, observing behavior, and learning the subtleties of alien politics. He became a presence that could not be ignored, a human whose intelligence and courage began to earn respect. And yet, he remained acutely aware of the danger. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and he would not survive. Every decision, every word and every action carried weight. The Queen's interest in him deepened. She questioned him not only on technical matters but also on philosophy, morality, and the nature of human courage. Alex realized that she was trying to understand what made humans unique, their unpredictability, their resilience, and their capacity for adaptation. In quiet moments, he thought of Earth, of home, and of the people who had never imagined he would be here, in an alien empire, facing a life-or-death ultimatum. Yet he also understood that he had found an opportunity few humans would ever have, to leave a mark on a civilization far older, far stronger, and far more advanced than his own. And Alex Carter, the human who had been captured and threatened, with execution, began to see a path forward. Not merely to survive, but to influence, to adapt, and to show that even in the most alien circumstances, a human could endure, excel, and leave an indelible impression. The morning light in the alien palace shimmered through translucent walls, casting shifting patterns across the floor. Alex Carter stood in the observation chamber, studying the energy grids of the city. For weeks, he had been learning, observing, and carefully navigating the labyrinth of palace politics and technology. He had earned small measures of respect from some advisors, even admiration from the Queen herself. But despite this, the shadow of her ultimatum lingered constantly in his mind. Marry me, or face execution. He was interrupted by a sharp chime. A soft, urgent hum filled the room. Alex's heart skipped a beat. The Queen was summoning him. He straightened his posture and hurried to her chambers. The Queen stood before a vast map, golden eyes glowing. Her expression was tense, unusual for someone so composed. Alex could feel the energy in the room crackling with urgency. "Alex," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "There is a problem. A rebellion has begun on the outskirts of our empire. A faction of our own people is challenging authority. They are armed, organized, and dangerous." Alex felt a rush of adrenaline. He had dealt with dangers before, but this was unlike any situation on Earth. These were intelligent, highly trained beings, acting with purpose against a civilization that was centuries more advanced than his own. "What do you need me to do?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. The Queen studied him silently. "You are not to fight directly. Your role is to observe, to advise, and to act with strategy. I want solutions that preserve life, protect the city, and maintain authority." "Can you do this?" Alex nodded. "I'll do my best." The Queen gestured to the map. Red and orange indicators flashed across the edges of the empire. The rebellion has cut supply lines and taken control of several key outposts. We need a plan to neutralize them before they reach the capital. Alex examined the map carefully. He noticed patterns that the alien strategists seemed to have overlooked. The rebels had predictable routes based on supply needs and local terrain. He suggested subtle adjustments to defensive positions, rerouting energy supplies and using decoys to delay enemy movements. The Queen raised an eyebrow. "And how do you propose to do this without escalating conflict unnecessarily?" Alex explained. His strategy. "We can isolate key targets, disrupt their coordination, and offer them a chance to surrender. If we act swiftly and with precision, we can end the rebellion without large-scale bloodshed. I can coordinate operations alongside your advisors to implement this plan." The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "You are bold, human. You think strategically and consider outcomes beyond immediate gain. That is unusual for your species." Alex swallowed. "I've learned that survival often depends on planning ahead, Your Majesty, and sometimes preserving life is as important as winning a conflict." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Very well. You will act as my strategist. Use what you have learned and guide us through this crisis." The next hours were a whirlwind. Alex was brought to a command chamber, surrounded by alien engineers, tacticians, and security officers. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing live data from across the Empire. Energy flows, troop movements, and supply routes pulsed with information. Alex took a deep breath. He had worked with teams before, but never in an environment so advanced. He had to communicate clearly, think quickly, and maintain authority without intimidation. "Focus on the supply nodes first," he instructed. "Cutting off their resources will slow their advance. Use decoy energy flows to confuse them and reroute defensive units to anticipate predictable routes. Time is critical." The alien officers exchanged skeptical glances, but they followed his directions. Within hours, the first results became apparent. The rebels were slowed, their movements disrupted by decoy systems and redirected energy flows. Alex coordinated further adjustments, moving units and resources in real time, always staying several steps ahead. The Queen observed from a high platform, silent and composed. Every successful maneuver reinforced her belief in his value. Alex noticed the subtle shifts in her expression: interest, approval, and perhaps even trust. By the second day, the rebellion had been contained, but not without tension. Some rebel factions refused to surrender, preparing for a final assault on a strategic city outpost. Alex knew that decisive action was required. He devised a plan to encircle the rebels using minimal force while preserving lives. "Deploy defensive drones along the perimeter," he instructed. "Coordinate with local units to block escape routes. Simultaneously, offer them terms for surrender. Make it clear that resistance is futile, but mercy is available if they comply." The Queen nodded, silently. Alex felt a surge of confidence. He had predicted the outcome with precision. The rebels, facing calculated strategy and overwhelming odds, chose surrender rather than risk destruction. The command chamber erupted in activity as officers reported success. Alex allowed himself a brief exhale. He had done it. He had influenced events in a civilization far more advanced than his own, using nothing but intelligence, observation, and strategy. The Queen descended to the command floor, her golden eyes fixed on him. "You acted decisively and effectively. You saved lives, maintained order, and demonstrated insight beyond what I expected. You are remarkable." Alex bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I could not have done it without guidance and information from your systems and advisors." She smiled faintly, a rare warmth in her expression. "And yet you led where others hesitated. That is what I value. Your human perspective. It is unpredictable, and it works." In the following days, Alex was celebrated discreetly within the palace. Advisors whispered of the human strategist who had contained a rebellion without unnecessary bloodshed. Some were skeptical, others grudgingly impressed. The Queen's fascination with him deepened, but Alex knew he could not grow complacent. Every success brought him closer to survival. Yes, but the shadow of the Queen's ultimatum remained. Marry her or face execution. Each day he spent demonstrating value and courage was also a day he navigated the tension between fear, duty, and personal freedom. One evening he was summoned to the Queen's private chambers. She regarded him silently as he entered. The room was dimly lit, walls glowing faintly with living energy. "You have proven yourself," she said. "You have demonstrated courage, intelligence, and insight. Yet the choice I offered remains. You may have saved lives and influenced events, but now you must decide. Will you accept my proposal or face execution?" Alex swallowed hard. He had learned much about the Queen, her empire, and her people. He had seen the value of humans in this world and how adaptability and ingenuity could change outcomes. But the decision she demanded us, it was overwhelming. He began, but the words faltered. His mind raced through everything he had learned. Survival, influence, human ingenuity, and the Queen's subtle fascination with him. All of it led to one realization: he could not act rashly. He had to consider carefully, for his choice now would shape not only his fate but perhaps the future of interactions between humanity and this empire. The Queen watched him silently, her gaze unwavering. "You have time, human," she said, finally. "But not much. Your answer will determine what comes next, and your life hangs in the balance. Consider carefully. Do not make a decision lightly." Alex nodded, though his mind was still spinning. He left her chambers, wandering through the palace corridors. Each wall shimmered with living light, each corridor pulsed with energy. Everywhere he looked, the empire thrived, yet danger lurked in every corner. He realized the rebellion had been only a small part of the challenge. The larger test was understanding the Queen, her people, and his own humanity under pressure. He spent the night thinking, analyzing, and planning. Every detail mattered: the political landscape, the Queen's personality, the subtle dynamics among advisors, and the unpredictable qualities that made humans unique. He realized that survival was no longer enough. He had to be clever, strategic, and courageous in every action he took. By morning, Alex had formulated a plan. He would continue to demonstrate human ingenuity, maintain the trust of the Queen, and use every opportunity to influence outcomes for the better. But he also understood one truth clearly: no matter what, the decision she demanded would come. And when it did, he would face it with the courage that had carried him through countless impossible situations before. The Queen summoned him once more. Her presence filled the room, commanding and majestic. Alex approached with calm determination, aware of the tension and the weight of the moment. "You have seen the results of your actions," she said. "The rebellion has been contained. Your strategy was sound. You have proven much. Now, human, I ask again. Will you marry me or face execution?" Alex took a deep breath. He thought of Earth, of his training, of every challenge he had overcome. He thought of the lives he had saved and the influence he had begun to wield. And he realized something important. This was not only a test of obedience or fear, it was a test of courage, adaptability, and the ability to act under unimaginable pressure. He looked up at the Queen, meeting her golden gaze. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steady, "I have learned much in your empire. I have seen your people, your systems, and your strength. I need to understand more before I can make such a choice. But I promise you this: I will do everything in my power." The palace was unusually quiet that morning. Even the living walls seemed subdued, as if aware of the tension that gripped its corridors. Alex Carter walked carefully, feeling the weight of anticipation pressing on his shoulders. Today, the Queen's ultimatum demanded an answer: marry her or face execution. Weeks of observation, strategy, and survival had led to this moment. He had contained rebellions, influenced alien advisors, and demonstrated human ingenuity beyond expectation. Yet now that the final moment had arrived, fear and uncertainty mingled with determination. The Queen's chamber was vast and luminous, light flowing through crystalline walls. She stood waiting, regal as ever, her golden eyes fixed on him. Around her, advisors and attendants observed silently, their expressions guarded. Alex swallowed, his pulse quickening, and stepped forward. "You have seen what I expect, human," the Queen said. Her voice was calm but powerful, filling every corner of the room. "You have influenced events, preserved life, and demonstrated courage. Yet the choice I gave you remains. Will you marry me, or face execution?" Alex took a deep breath. He had thought about this endlessly. Every strategy, every consequence. Marriage could offer safety and influence, but it would bind him to an alien empire, to a life he could not fully control. Refusal meant death, yet it was also a statement of independence, of human pride. He considered the rebellion he had contained. He thought of the subtle shifts in palace politics, the way advisors had begun to respect him, and how his actions had affected not only his survival, but the future of the empire itself. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and courageous. Perhaps this was the moment to show it fully. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, meeting her gaze, "I will accept your offer, but not out of fear, out of respect for what I have learned here, and for the opportunity to show that humans can contribute meaningfully even in your empire." The Queen's golden eyes widened slightly, and a faint, unreadable expression passed over her face. "You choose wisely, human. You do not act blindly out of fear, but with understanding and courage. That is impressive." Alex felt a mixture of relief and tension. He had survived, but he knew the real work was only beginning. Marriage was not merely a title, it was a test of influence, loyalty, and adaptability. The Queen had chosen him because he represented something different, something valuable to her empire. The ceremony was unlike anything Alex had imagined. The palace had been prepared, not with excessive extravagance, but with elegance and living light. Alien attendants moved in harmony, their forms shifting as they ensured everything was perfect. Alex wore a simple uniform adapted for the occasion, while the Queen's gown shimmered with living energy, flowing like a river of golden violet. As they stood together, the Queen spoke, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "This union is not merely symbolic. It represents trust, courage, and the willingness to endure. You, human, are now part of this empire. Your influence will be valued, your courage recognized, and your actions remembered." Alex nodded solemnly. He could feel the weight of the responsibility settling on him. He was no longer merely a visitor or a strategist. He was now bound to a civilization far greater than his own. And yet he also felt a spark of determination. He would not merely survive. He would contribute, innovate, and leave a mark that no alien empire could ignore. The weeks following the marriage were a whirlwind of activity. Alex assumed a role within the palace that combined diplomacy, strategy, and observation. He continued to offer insights, always careful to respect the customs and hierarchy of the empire. He became a bridge between human ingenuity and alien tradition, showing that collaboration could yield extraordinary results. He also observed the Queen in a new light. She was more than a ruler. She was a strategist, a diplomat, and a guardian of her people. Yet she trusted him in ways few humans could have imagined. Alex understood that this trust was fragile, earned through skill, courage, and careful observation. Every decision, every suggestion, every action he took mattered. One day, a new crisis arose. A natural phenomenon, an energy storm of unprecedented scale, threatened the outer cities of the empire. The alien systems, advanced as they were, had never encountered anything like it. Alex was summoned to the command chamber. Holographic displays projected the storm's movement, showing its potential to devastate entire regions. Energy flows fluctuated, defensive systems strained, and panic began to ripple through the advisors. This storm could destroy cities, one official warned. We must evacuate immediately. Alex studied the data. He saw patterns, potential solutions, and weaknesses in the conventional approach. Evacuation alone will not save resources or lives, he said calmly. We can redirect energy flows to reinforce structural stability, create protective fields using existing conduits, and mobilize units to shield critical areas. We must act precisely and decisively. The Queen observed silently, her golden eyes fixed on him. You have learned well, human. Show me what you can do. Alex coordinated operations with precision. He instructed engineers to reroute energy, deployed protective shields over key sectors, and adjusted environmental controls to stabilize the cities. The storm struck, massive and relentless, but the preparations held. Damage was minimized, lives were saved, and the alien systems proved more resilient with his guidance. The Queen approached him afterward, her expression unreadable, yet tinged with approval. You acted decisively, human. You saved lives, preserved stability, and demonstrated the value of your species. Your courage, intelligence, and adaptability have earned you respect, beyond even my own expectations. Alex bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I could, using what I have learned here. Your guidance and the trust you placed in me made this possible. Over time, Alex became a figure of legend within the palace. His human ingenuity, courage, and adaptability were celebrated, not only for preventing crises but for bridging the gap between species. The Queen's trust in him was unmatched, and he had become indispensable in both diplomacy and strategy. Yet, Alex never forgot who he was, a human far from Earth, facing challenges no one on his home planet could imagine. Every day was a test of intellect, courage, and judgment. But he had proven that humans were more than capable of thriving in a world that once seemed impossible. The final test came not from rebellion, storm, or politics, but from the Queen herself. One evening, she summoned him to a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of the Empire shimmered below, energy flowing in intricate patterns, alive and vibrant. You have survived every challenge I presented, she said softly. You have demonstrated courage, intelligence, and the adaptability of your species. And now, you are no longer just a human in my empire. You are a partner, a strategist, and a symbol of what humans can offer. Alex looked at her, understanding the depth of her words. He had faced impossible odds, navigated alien politics, and saved countless lives. He had proven that human ingenuity could influence even the most advanced civilizations. I have learned more than I ever imagined, he said, and I will continue to learn, continue to contribute, and continue to demonstrate that humans are capable of more than anyone expected. The Queen smiled faintly, a warmth that few had seen. Then you have fulfilled your purpose, Alex Carter. Not just for yourself, but for your species. You have shown that courage, intelligence, and adaptability are universal qualities, qualities that even my empire must respect. Alex felt a sense of accomplishment unlike any he had known. He had survived an impossible demand, earned the trust of a civilization far older and more advanced than his own, and shown the value of human ingenuity and spirit. He had turned fear into opportunity, survival into influence, and a death sentence into a legacy. As he stood beside the Queen, gazing over the Empire, Alex realized that the galaxy had changed, not just because of him, but because of what he represented. Humans were capable, resilient, and unpredictable. And in the heart of a powerful alien empire, one human had proven that courage and intellect could leave an indelible mark. The palace shimmered around them, alive with energy and light. The Queen's hand rested lightly on his shoulder, a symbol of trust, respect, and partnership. And Alex Carter, human explorer and strategist, understood that his journey had only begun. The galaxy would take notice sooner or later. But for now, Alex had accomplished the impossible. He had survived, influenced, and thrived in a world that once promised only death. And in doing so, he had proven a truth that would echo far beyond the walls of the palace. Humans, when faced, with impossible odds, could endure, adapt, and triumph, even in the heart of an alien empire. The sun of Zithera rose slowly above the horizon, casting long golden streaks across the palace gardens. Birds with iridescent feathers chirped in the early morning, their songs echoing through the grand marble corridors. Yet in one part of the palace the usual harmony felt incomplete. Princess Liara sat alone under a blossoming tree, her long hair glinting like copper in the sunlight, but her eyes were tired and distant. Though her beauty was legendary across Zithera, her spirit seemed weighed down by a hunger that no food in the palace could satisfy. She had eaten the finest delicacies her world could offer, glimmering fruits from the high trees, crystallized nectar from rare flowers, and meats from the swiftest animals in the royal hunting grounds. Chefs and scientists had tried every method known to Zithera to create meals that could restore her energy. They had mixed exotic flavors, brewed rare elixirs, and even used the glow of the bioluminescent plants in their recipes. But nothing worked. Every bite she took left her longing for something more, something unknown. She felt as if a part of her body and mind hungered for a taste of life itself, a flavor she could not name. Her father, King Thalor, had grown increasingly anxious. The king was a towering figure with broad shoulders and eyes that shone like polished jade. He was a wise and stern ruler, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for the mysterious starvation of his only daughter. The royal physicians had no explanation. The advisors whispered that perhaps the princess's soul was restless, or that her destiny required some great adventure before her hunger could be sated. Still, the king could not bear to see Liara weak and listless. He watched her from afar, his heart heavy with worry. In the midst of this quiet despair, a delegation arrived from a distant star system called Earth. The humans were unlike any race the Zitherians had encountered. Their forms were slightly smaller and less colorful than the alien elites of Zithera, but they carried themselves with confidence and a curiosity that intrigued everyone. Among them was a young human named Ethan. Unlike most diplomats who dressed in rigid formal attire, Ethan wore a simple tunic and practical pants. He carried a small satchel filled with items that seemed strange to the aliens, small packets of powders, seeds, and colorful little packages. Ethan had been chosen not only for his diplomatic skills but for his interest in alien cultures and his knowledge of Earth's foods. While the other humans focused on trade agreements and formal ceremonies, Ethan had spent days studying Zithera's cuisine and attempting to adapt it to human tastes. He experimented in the palace kitchens, mixing alien fruits with human techniques, creating new flavors and textures that amazed the kitchen staff. To most of the court, his work was a curious distraction, but to Ethan, it was a way to connect with the planet and its people in the simplest, most human way, through food. One morning, Liara wandered through the palace gardens, drawn to the smell of something unusual. It was sweet, earthy, and warm, unlike anything she had ever encountered. She followed the scent until she reached the kitchen courtyard, where she saw Ethan. He was kneeling on the floor, carefully unwrapping a small square of dark brown substance, his fingers moving with careful precision. The courtyard was filled with small animals that the palace gardeners used to maintain the plants, and Ethan seemed unbothered by them, focused entirely on his work. Liara's curiosity overcame her shyness. She stepped closer, the sunlight catching the strands of her hair and making them glow. Ethan noticed her immediately but did not appear startled. He smiled, a simple, open expression that seemed to put her at ease. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm and warm. "Would you like to try something?" Liara hesitated. I don't usually eat things made by humans," she said softly, her eyes filled with a mixture of caution and curiosity. Ethan held out the small square. "It's called chocolate. It's from my world. Very simple, very sweet. Just a taste, nothing more." Something in his tone, gentle and unassuming, made Liara reach out. She took the square between her fingers, careful not to crush it. When she tasted it, a warmth spread through her chest that she had never felt before. The taste was rich, comforting, and utterly new. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of satisfaction that went beyond hunger. Her eyes widened as the flavors danced across her tongue, sweet, bitter, smooth, and complex all at once. This is incredible, Liara whispered. Her voice held disbelief and wonder. I've never felt anything like it. Ethan smiled, pleased but not arrogant. Earth food is simple, but it's meant to excite the senses, to make you feel alive. We try to find joy in flavors, textures, and combinations. Sometimes the simplest things bring the most happiness. Liara's mind raced. Could such a small, simple thing heal the emptiness she had felt for so long? She felt a surge of hope, a curiosity that she had thought lost. Can you teach me more? She asked hesitantly. Ethan nodded. I can. But it's not just about food. It's about understanding the joy in what you eat and learning to share it. Food is a story, a memory, a little bit of magic. And so began a quiet friendship between the human and the princess. Over the next several days, Liara visited Ethan whenever she could, exploring the palace kitchens in secret. He showed her how to mix the ingredients, how to feel the textures, how to notice the smells and colors. She laughed for the first time in weeks as she clumsily tried to recreate his dishes, spilling powders and stirring too quickly. Ethan never scolded her. He encouraged her, praised her curiosity, and shared stories of Earth, of simple kitchens, bustling markets, and children tasting chocolate for the first time. The palace staff began to notice changes in Liara. She moved with more energy, her eyes sparkled, and her voice rang with laughter. King Thaler watched from his study, a mixture of relief and suspicion in his heart. He did not understand the human, and yet he could not deny the improvement in his daughter's health. It was as if a shadow had lifted from her spirit. One afternoon, the king decided to observe without interfering. He stood in the archway of the kitchen courtyard, silent and imposing, as Liara carefully unwrapped a new treat Ethan had prepared. Aitia, soft spiced bread from Earth, fragrant with cinnamon and nutmeg. She offered him a small piece. Father, she said, her voice bright and full of life, you must try this. It is wonderful. King Thaler raised an eyebrow. He took the bread cautiously, tasting it as if expecting some trick. Then something remarkable happened. The flavors, simple yet complex, filled his senses. For a moment, his stern expression softened. He had eaten thousands of dishes in his life, sampled delicacies from every corner of Zithera, but this was new. It was not just food. It was a spark of joy. The king's eyes met Ethan's. Human, you have done something remarkable, he said carefully. Not only for my daughter, but for me. Ethan bowed slightly, respectful, but not obsequious. I am honored, Your Majesty. I simply shared what we value on Earth. The king studied his daughter. She smiled at Ethan, her face glowing with happiness. Her hunger, the mysterious unending hunger, seemed gone, replaced by vitality and curiosity. The king realized then that perhaps humans were more than diplomats or traders. Perhaps they carried a kind of ingenuity and warmth that Zitherians had never encountered before. Over the following weeks, Liara's lessons continued. She discovered new flavors, new sensations, and new ways to enjoy life. Ethan taught her how to make simple fruit pies, spiced drinks, and even small cakes. They experimented together, laughing when things went wrong and celebrating when something turned out delicious. Liara's laughter echoed through the palace halls, a sound that had been absent for far too long. But the human's influence went beyond food. He shared stories of Earth, of people who solved problems in creative ways, who found joy in small things, and who celebrated friendship and curiosity. Liara absorbed every word. She realized that her hunger was not just physical. It had been for life itself, for wonder, for discovery. Ethan had opened a door she never knew existed, and she stepped through it eagerly. As the sun set on Zithera, painting the skies in shades of pink and gold, Liara and Ethan sat together under the blooming trees, a small plate of fruit and chocolate between them. The princess smiled, feeling full for the first time in months. Not just from the food, but from the connection, the laughter, and the discovery of something beyond her royal life. She looked at Ethan and thought of him not only as a human from a distant star, but as a friend, a guide, and perhaps something more. For King Thalor, the sight was both comforting and concerning. He had worried for his daughter, feared for her health, and now saw her thriving thanks to the human. Yet in his heart, he felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps humans could be more than strangers. Perhaps they could bring new ideas, new joy, and even new alliances to Zithara. He remained silent, watching the princess's happiness and the human's gentle ways, and allowed himself to hope for the future. And so, the princess who had been starving, who had wandered through life searching for a taste that could fill her emptiness, found something she had never expected. Not only the delights of earth food, but the spark of life and friendship that could heal her soul. Ethan, with his simple human ways, had opened a door to a world of wonder, and Princess Liara stepped through it with a bright, eager heart. Little did they know that this simple friendship, born from